Hello friends, Romans, countrymen, lads and ladies. I wanted to show y'all my character. Essentially, this is just like a showcase. It's not really a build guide. It's just kind of like me wanting to show off a build that's like actually pretty good. Probably the build I've had most fun with. I've had the most fun with this league. And that's my Winter Orb Occultist. I think we're gonna do a Minotaur map. Just like a double boss Minotaur real quick. We can do Einhar, I guess. And then after the showcase, I'll just kind of go over the way I built it. Long story short, it's pretty much built the same way as any power charge stacking spell build. I mean, it's pretty like cookie cutter. Like, it's not special. It's not the omniscience version, which, you know, actually could potentially get more damage depending on your gear and how much omniscience you stack. But the omniscience stacking version has the triple damage staff, so you know, any spell that's doing triple damage on the base end is obviously going to outperform something that doesn't do triple damage. But it's we still got more than enough damage to do like invitations and stuff. I did like 10 Uber Elders yesterday. I did 10 shape. Ooh, we need that. Let's go ahead and get rid of... Is this an upgraded one? I can't tell. Gosh. GGG, please. Just give us a bigger inventory. That's all we want. In our hearts, we know it. That's all we really want and need. The bigger inventory. Please. But yeah, yesterday I did like 10 Shapers, 5 Uber Elders, all sorts of invitations and stuff. I did like half an inventory full of Elder Guardians to farm those Elders and Uber Elders. I mean, Elders, nothing special, but so we just popped down Arcanist Brand. Arcanist Brand doesn't really do much even for my build. So he gained his life back. And we got Phoenix here, and then he's dead. Alright, so that's cool. We'll grab this wand, just because. Alright, so as you can see, the damage is actually pretty banging. Blinken might have missed it. The reason the damage is so high is because we have so much cast speed that the projectile frequency, or what was it? The wording. It's more projectile frequency while channeling. So we scale that with cast speed, and we end up just firing really fast when we're channeling, because we have 10 frenzy charges. So that's 40% cast speed and 40% more damage. Just straight up. Plus also being crit capped helps a lot. But anyways, so we are an occultist. We don't go for pops, but we could, you know, if you wanted to do like simulacrums, or if you wanted to like have better clear, which is kind of unnecessary because Herald of Ice is just so dank with this much AoE. It's kind of just unneeded. So the clear is really nice. You can do any sort of mapping content on this build. It's, you know, effectively a really, really good mapper that can boss. It's not a bosser that can map. You know, usually a build either excels at one thing and kind of lacks in other things, or it's just mediocre at everything. This build is really, really nice to map with, and bossing is also something you can do. So we take Malediction for the additional curse. We have 2 curse rings, which is kind of like the only way we can get on hit with spells nowadays, that Assassin's Mark is not on a ring, and the mark on hit jewel or gem only works with attacks, which kind of sucks. I really wish we could get Assassin's Mark on hit with you know, spells, especially because, you know, it's just free multi and gives you a lot of crit chance, and also gives you mana, life, and I believe power charge on kill. Assassin's Mark is just great, but because we don't have that, we use Ellie Week and Frostbite. I did that backwards. Anyways, and then we're power charge stacking, so we take the power charge stacking node. This is where most of our AoE comes from. Yeah, just overall really nice node. Gives us +1 power charges, and the AoE from our power charges really does scale the Herald of Ice explosions quite a bit, which is kind of the whole point. And then we go down to get the, you know, -20 cold res and the reduced life regen, which you're going to see why the Arcanist brand I use doesn't really do anything because of this node. But then we go over to Frigid Wake. Cannot be frozen and cannot be chilled is such a massive quality of life. Like, especially when you're doing Delirium and they shoot those columns of ice that freeze you and just chunk your life bar, not having to worry about those is just, oh, it's so nice. So nice. Those are the Ascendancy choices. You could get an additional curse on your chest piece by keeping suffixes and reforging caster on the prefix, and then you could drop Malediction for Profane Bloom, which is, you know, that's kind of just personal preference. I keep Malediction because the effect of my curses on bosses is actually more damage than Profane Bloom, obviously. So that's kind of why I've kept it. But if I was just gonna farm Simulacrums with this build, I'd probably, you know, obviously want Profane Bloom rather than Malediction, because you can still get 2 curses, and the Profane Bloom is just gonna scale so well, especially in the later waves of Simulacrum. So yeah, this is not a wave 30 Simulacrum build, by the way. You could probably get to like wave 28, 29. The farthest I've gotten is 27, but, you know, if you actually did have Profane Bloom, you could probably get pretty far. But I can consistently get to like wave 26, 27, just because the clear is so good. But without Profane Bloom, your damage does start to fall off around wave 25, so the Profane Bloom would really just hard carry you through those last 5 waves. So if you wanted to do that, you totally could, and it would probably work out great. Anyways, so that's the Ascendancy for the tree. It's a pretty general, like, cookie cutter power charge stacking tree, for spell damage at least, you know. If you wanted to go assassin, the tree would look pretty similar. I would say. Um, and yeah, you'd probably just, start here rather than here. I think uh, also, if you were an assassin, you'd be able to pump more damage because you would effectively get two of these nodes. Just from your Ascendancy, you get a node like this where you get multi per power charge, and at 10 power charges with this node and your Ascendancy, that's 100 free crit multi. So, pretty nice. Also, it's a lot easier to get crit capped on an assassin, so I don't know. I think next league I'm gonna try this build out on an assassin and see how it feels. It's not gonna be great because you do have to invest a lot more in AOE, but you don't have to invest nearly as much into crit. So you could drop like your crit clusters here, and go for AOE clusters, and compensate that way. But anyways, so we go up here, we grab a Glorious Vanity for Corrupted Soul. This gives us a lot of energy shield. As you can see, it gives us like almost 1,000 energy shields, like 850 energy shield or something. And then we have Ritual of Stillness. Another really good node would be the one that gives you Cold Leech. That would be amazing to have somewhere around here, but other than that, we just have like a little bit of res, a little bit of life, a little skill effect duration, never hurt nobody. We grab Assassination and Blood Siphon over here just for some extra life sustain and multi. We grab the crit multi nodes here, and then we grab the cluster wheel. I'll go through my clusters a little bit. We grab the reservation wheel here. We grab, we are a hybrid build, so these nodes are really nice to have. We grab Doomcast, we grab Ghost Dance because we have Grace, and this is just really, really strong when you've got Energy Shield. It's a great node. We grab Life, we grab the Power Charge, we come over here, we grab the second Power Charge and a Thread of Hope, so we can pick up Heart of Ice without having to path super, without having to waste a bunch of points, basically. We get the cast speed here, we get the AoE here, we get the energy shield here. You could, get these other cast speed nodes if you really wanted, or the AoE here. You could also get the ES recharge if you've got the points to spare. I don't, so anyways, we grab the second cluster here. You could drop like some of these nodes around. You could drop like these and like maybe this reservation wheel if you've got more mana, in order to fit in a second large cluster, which would, obviously be able to pump more damage, but you'd really have to like kind of do a bare bones tree at that point. And all you'd really get is probably like 10% pen and 50% elemental damage, which dropping all these multi-nodes is, arguably worse. I don't know, it's just something you could do. And then we grab, the spell crit, the life, the reservation, and then our last power charge. So yeah, pretty much just crit, life, and power charges on the tree. The clusters, we have pressure points and magnifier on a crit cluster here. We have one small cluster for reservation, so we could fit in Grace to the build, because with Grace the build feels amazing, but without it, it sucks. Like, honestly, you need avoidance. Yeah, this is still kind of a glass cannon build, but when you have absolutely no defenses, it's terrible. You could switch Grace out for Zealotry if you wanted to just, completely pump as much damage as you want, or as much damage as, humanly possible. You don't really need to, honestly. The only invitation you can't do on this build is maybe the feared and the hidden. Like maybe the hidden you could do, but I haven't tried it. I'll probably try it today. But we also use one large cluster. This is a blanketed snow, prismatic heart, disorienting display. The blind we get from disorienting display is really helpful since we are evasion based. We have about 66% evade chance, but with blind that obviously, you know, goes up, so it's a little bit more if you're like including the blind. But the prismatic heart is really good generic all res node. Like this is how we cap our res, so get this. And then blanketed snow is obviously the best node you can have, since we're always chilling enemies. It's just 10% pen. We use one AoE cluster with towering threat and vast power. You could switch out one of these crit clusters for another vast power and probably magnifier, but that's, you know, if you need to or if you want to. The AoE on this build is already good enough to where I didn't feel like I needed it. I know I'm not at the optimal threshold to overlap all 5 of my projectiles, but I still have enough damage to do Shaper and Uber Elder. So, and I can do the Formed and the Twisted all day. So just having that much damage, it doesn't feel like I need to sacrifice, you know, a crit cluster just to get more AoE. But then we use quick getaway, pressure points. Obviously double damage is great. The jewels, like I said, we use Glorious Vanity. We have a Watcher's Eye here with Hatred Cold Pen and Vitality Leech. This is how we are getting Leech. What you could do is get the Cold Leech thing on one of these notables, and that would free up a slot on your Watcher's Eye, and then also Vitality, so you might be able to run Precision and, you know, or something else if you wanted. We're already crit capped, so I don't really need Precision, and all in all, having Vitality is still really, really nice. So it works. A better Watcher's Eye would also be to get like the flat cold on Hatred added to this. That would be really, really nice. Obviously the Hatred crit Watcher's Eye with Cold Pen is probably 90x or more. So the flat cold and the Cold Pen is probably like the best upgrade you could get here for a reasonable amount of money. Other than that, we use 2 triple multi-jewels, or I guess 2 double multi-jewels, never mind. 2 double multi-jewels with all res, so we can cap our res. Turning these into triple multi-jewels would actually give you probably around 100,000 more damage, I think, is what my POB says, like total. Per projectile, it's only like 20,000 or something. Like I said, we use Thread of Hope with a large ring, the small cluster, and then we have a Corrupted Blood Jewel with Cold Pen, Resistance, and Crit Multi. This is actually a pretty decent Corrupted Blood Jewel. You could probably find one with like an AoE corruption or like I don't know, like area damage or crit chance with cold skills along with the multi. We are dual wielding, so all sorts of good stuff. Anyways, that's the tree. Let's go over the gem links. So we have Winter Orb, Power Charge on crit, Infused Channeling, Added Cold Awakened, GMP, and Anomalous Inspiration. So when you're channeling, you will get this thing, which is called Infusion, and you basically get more damage to whatever tags your gem has. So if I had like a fire tag on this gem, I would get more fire damage when I'm channeling. Since this is a cold spell, we get more cold spell damage. This is basically more damage than a crit damage support by a lot. In POE, you have to tick the has infusion active in your configurations, and it's just overall really good. Also, you take less cold damage while you're channeling as well. So power charge on crit, this is just straight up 40% more damage, so really nice there. Obviously the other ones are pretty self-explanatory, inspiration for mana cost and all that. Cold damage is just damage. We have Flame Dash linked to Arcane Surge with Clarity. We have Vortex linked to Bone Chill. We have Sniper's Mark, Frost Bomb, and Arcanist Brand. These actually don't do much. We have Immortal Call linked to cast from damage taken, Summon Ice Golem, and Vitality. And then here in our auras, we have Defiance, Banner, Grace, Herald of Ice, and Hatred. We have the +2 to AoE gems on our gloves. That gives +2 to Herald of Ice, which is pretty important. So those are the gems. What next? I guess we can go over gear. Well, actually, just really quick. So yeah, we use Hatred, Herald of Ice, Grace, Defiance Banner, Clarity, and Vitality. So 6 auras, and you can obviously see them up here. You could even switch out Ice Golem for Lightning Golem to get cast speed if if you're already capped on crit. But I just kind of like him. He looks like a spiky boy. So anyways, so gear. We use a Blizzard Crown, obviously, just for the cold damage. This is kind of like a non-negotiable item, because the adds cold damage applies to your Herald of Ice. So it's just global. And that's really kind of important. Other than that, we woke Orb max power charge with nearby enemies have -9 cold res. You could go for the -12. I made this like second week of League, so I didn't have the money. And then we also got some Fizz taking us cold, which is really nice, but not really important. Overall, you just really kind of want the power charge over anything else, right? So even if you can't afford a Woke Orb, just get a helmet with the +1 power charge, or just get a Blizzard Crown with the Winter Orb enchant, and then slam it with a a Warlord Exalt, and then reforge until you get it, or just alt spam, and then Og Regal if you're really desperate. It shouldn't be too difficult. What I did was I found a Blizzard Crown with the enchantment. I slammed it with a Warlord Exalted, or maybe a Redeemer Exalted, and then I alt spammed for the -9, and then I Woke Orbed the +1 power charge onto it, or vice versa. This is just a really terrible craft, because one's a prefix and one's a suffix, and you kind of just gotta hope for the best. I was really just hoping for some type of resistance, but we didn't get there, so You know, this is a craft you can just keep remaking over and over and over again until you get something you like, and then you can obviously sell, you know, the rejects, or like the ones that have things on it you don't want. You could probably sell this helmet for like 5 or 6x the way it is now. So with the accuracy, it's actually quite good. But anyways, other than that, we obviously use 2 void batteries plus 1 power charge on each. Is just too good to pass up since we are stacking power charges. I got ones with the max cast speed roll, so like basically perfectly rolled cast speed. That's kind of the only stat that really matters. The, you know, global crit chance is nice, the mana's nice, but just trying to get ones with as high as with a high roll of cast speed as you can. The AoE enchantments on them are also kind of important. They're not necessary, but they really do help. We use badge, so since we have 10 power charges, this also gives us 10 frenzy charges. Basically, like I said, just gives us an incredible amount of cast speed and more damage. Yeah, so these 3 things are probably the only required uniques for the build. You don't need a headhunter, but you definitely need 2 void batteries and a badge to make it work. As for the chest piece, we woke orbed elevated spell crit with frenzy charge on hit, because even though you get 10 frenzy charges, you still need to generate them. So we just grab the frenzy charge on hit, so they are up during boss fights. Super nice. We had a free suffix, so we locked suffixes and reforged chaos, and we got tier 5 chaos, so got a little bit of chaos res. And then we crafted max life as extra ES. You could just reforge defense on the prefixes, or reforge caster if you want an additional curse. There's a lot of flexibility here, but you do want the spell crit and you do want the frenzy charge. The spell crit actually does apply to your herald devices as well, since this is just generic base spell crit. So since your herald device now has a base spell crit of 1.87, you can scale that with all of your other crit chance modifiers like your power charges. So yeah, you want the base spell crit here, really important. As for the rings, we have 1 frostbite ring and 1 LE weakness ring. This is probably, you know, these are probably the 2 slots of gear that are the most flexible. You could really just put anything you want here. You could get like a circle of fear with buff effects and cold damage. You could get +1 power charge ring, would probably be, you know, ideal. And then you would obviously just take Profane Bloom instead of Malediction. Other than that, you know, any other good stats are really nice to have. The cold damage per frenzy charge on this one is super, super nice. Since we have 10 frenzy charges, that's a whole lot of added cold. The other mods are like cold damage against chilled or frozen enemies, just life gain on hit with spells, just also fixing your resistances and your attributes here as well. Cast speed is really nice to have as a suffix if you can squeeze it in as well. So it's probably pretty important to have at least 1 minus mana cost ring. So like if you can fit it on both, that's great, but you're probably going to need at least 1. If I had 2, I could probably drop clarity, but since I don't have 2, I have clarity, and it works out. The gloves are just temple gloves with dexterity. We need dexterity in the build somewhere. This is just a good place to get it. And lightning res, just find a pair of gloves with really good suffixes, and then lock them, and Veiled Chaos Orb. And keep doing that until you get the AoE and the AoE gems. Because the AoE is really nice to have, and the +2 AoE gems will bump up the cold damage on your Herald of Ice. So it says 400 to 600 cold damage, but if it's just 21, it's 337 to 500. So really, really, really good to get that +2 gems there. Just scales the damage quite a lot. And then we also have Cold Exposure and Unnerve. You could get Cold Leech here on the implicit as well. So that's another option if you want to do that. And then the boots. Pretty standard boots. Mine aren't insane or anything. It's only once elevated. The Onslaught's elevated. The Tailwind is not. I made these like 3rd week of League, so I didn't have a bunch of money. But yeah, these boots are just your typical Zoom boots. You know, Elusive, Onslaught, Tailwind. Aisling Slam for the move speed, and then Craft Life, and you're done. Right? The Enchant with the cast speed, if you killed recently, is really nice to have as well. While you're mapping, since this is a mapping build, that's really, really, you know, beneficial to have. If you're going to be trying to kill Elder or Shaper or whatever, the damage penetration enchant might be more beneficial to you, but I wouldn't recommend making this build as like a dedicated bosser. And then we obviously use Headhunter. This build is one of the best builds to scale Headhunter with, Headhunter scales this build better than a lot of other builds just because it is projectile based spell. So, you know, when you've got like 50 or 60 Headhunter buffs, you're shooting like, I don't know, 20, 30 projectiles at everything around you, and it just feels great. But yeah, so, and you could use, you know, a Stygian here, and that way you could get like phasing on like a jewel or something. You know, you could get blind, you could get all sorts of stuff on an abyssal jewel if you had a Stygian. You could actually probably get more damage on a Stygian, because you could get spell damage, elemental damage, damage against chilled enemies, cast speed during Flask effect, move speed during Flask effect. There's all sorts of stuff you could get. So overall, Headhunter, not necessary, but obviously recommended. Yeah, so that's the gear. I guess we could do like flasks. So, Diamond Flask, Life Flask, Sulfur Flask with evasion. Dying Sun is pretty important for single target. And then Quicksilver. These two, the Diamond Flask and the Sulfur Flask, could be replaced with one Bottled Faith, and then you could just put in an Atziri's Promise and then a Bottled Faith, and that would probably be the maximum DPS setup. But I am not going to spend 8 Exalts on just one flask. I've been trying to drop one. I've done like 3 Cortexes this league, but I think they nerfed the drop rate because, yeah, pretty sure they did. Anyways, that's everything. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask me in the comments. I will include a POB in case y'all are curious. And other than that, I'm not sure. If I missed anything, please let me know. And other than that, yeah, you'll probably have a lot of fun with this build. It's pretty easy to put together. It's not the most expensive. Without the Headhunter, it's really not that expensive at all. But yeah, anyways, that's it. Have a good day, and adios.